we've set array variable elements to certain values, right? Using cins, reading from the file. You can do calculations, as we'll see later on, and assign to different locations in the array. Variables we can always initialize right when we declare them. Well, we can do the same thing with an array. So I have an array size of 5 right now. I'm going to create an array of strings, call names, and we'll use that array size variable there. Alright, and then we have an array created of strings that holds 5, well, hold any kind of string, but we're going to use it to hold names. Alright, so that will compile. So we want to initialize this. Well, to initialize it, we need to give it a set of data. Now the array size is 5, that means that most data I can give it is 5 names. So I'm going to create this array right now with 5 names in here, showing you how to initialize it to those names. Alright. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys. Alright, 5 names: Rich, Joe, Doug, Tim, and Matt. Alright, not going to do anything else to it except create a loop, because it's a great way to get to the data in an array for outputting. Alright, so integer index equals 0, and as long as index, of course, is less than our array size, and we increment index, right, like always. So we're going to see out the names of the index, and each one on a new line. Right, nothing doing there. I'm not doing any cins, not reading from a file or anything. Just initializing it. Initialization is between the 2 curly brackets, each element separated by a comma, and there you see the 5 names. Alright, so again, initialize it. The curly brackets, these are strings, so we put them in double quotes, and we separate them by the commas. Alright, now we can do that with integers also. Alright, we're going to leave, we'll just change this, not without changing it, I'm just going to change this to an int. Right, obviously that's invalid now. So if we have an array of integers, right, there are no double quotes, we just put the integer values in, again separated by the comma. Right, and I can compile that and run it. So same is true for doubles, chars. Chars will be in single quotes, floats and doubles, right, and stuff. And there it is. Right, 5 values I typed in: 10, 45, 32, 76, and 44. Right, so it's very easy to initialize an array right when you declare it. Right, what you can also do is partially initialize it. In this case, I'm only giving it 2 values. The array size is 5. Alright, so element 0 will get to 10, element 1 gets to 45. So what happens to the other 3 data elements in the array? Well, when you don't supply them all, it sets them to 0. Right, so I only supplied 2, so the first 2 elements in the array get those values. Right, there's no way to control where they go to the first 2, and then everything else gets set to a 0. If it was an array of doubles, same thing, they get initialized to zeros, floats to zeros, longs, everything. Whatever you eliminate in terms of numeric values, it'll put in zeros for the missing elements. Because we define the array size, it's expecting 5, but we only gave it 2, so it automatically initializes the other 3 to 0. Okay, so that's 2 ways to initialize it. Right, with one for each element in the array, or you could do a partial. Right? Of course, you can always change them as you're going through your program and everything else. But another way to initialize is to leave off this. Alright, now this is very different, right? And this array size now becomes illegal, or invalid, I should say, not illegal, right? Because there is no size to this array. But by initializing it and you have to initialize it immediately when you're declaring it. Right? All this has to appear on one line like this. Right? We got to immediately initialize an empty array. This array has no size, but its size is determined by how you initialize it. I have two initialization values here. I'm going to leave this at array size, so you can see that I will go out beyond the size of the array, but there are only going to be two valid values, the 10 and the 45, because that is the actual valid values in the array. It only has an array size of 2. Immediately get something that's invalid, right? And then there's some other values out there, some crazy values. Alright, so if I was to change this to have 56 in it, and 2 in it, and 0 in it, now it's an array of 5. So I should see all valid outputs. I should see those numbers in order, 10, 45, 56, 2, and 0. And there they are, 10, 45, 56, 2, and 0. Alright, so 3 ways to initialize the array. You give it all the values, right? With a known size, you give it all the values up to the size of the array. You can partially fill it with only partial values, such as if I left off the last 3 values there that you see in the program, the rest would be initialized to 0. Without the size inside these brackets, how many elements are between these curly brackets determines the size of the array then. I have 5 here, so the array now is 5. Right? Not this constant up here has nothing now to do with sizing of the array anymore. It just happens to match based on the way I initialized it. Alright, so initializing an array is nice and quick. Quick way to get them to zeros. Right? If you wanted to start off with zeros, you just set the first one to 0 and the rest become 0. Alright, and we can initialize with strings, doubles, chars. Chars just go into single quotes, where strings go into double quotes. Right? We cannot skip elements. I cannot say I want this one to be blank. Right? That would be an illegal initialization. Right? You see you got the comma there. It has to have a value there. Right? So you can't skip it and try and make that one a 0 or something of that nature. Alright? So they either all got to be there, or up to a certain point you can't try and skip anything.